Welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to look at the periodic table, one of the most repeated questions in your ECZ exams. So in this video, I'm going to make this topic so simple that you'll be able to solve any question which will come on the periodic table. So to begin, first you need to understand the definition of the periodic table. What is a periodic table? So a periodic table is just a group of elements which are placed in the order of increasing atomic number. So the periodic table is just what? So the periodic table is just a group of elements placed according to the order of increasing So what do we mean when we say increasing atomic number? So meaning the more the electrons or the more the protons are increasing, that's our element will keep on moving. So you need to understand a key which we use to identify elements on the periodic table. So that key, if you look at the bottom of your periodic table, you will see a letter X with A and Z. So this represents the what? The relative atomic mass. Then Z represents the proton number. Then X is the atomic symbol or the element. Yeah. So this topic, you know what each terms means. We know that the relative atomic mass means the sum of protons and neutrons. So we know that the atomic mass represents the sum of the protons and the neutrons which are present in the what? Nucleus. Then the proton number basically just represents the number of protons in the nucleus. So this key is the key which will help you to identify the relative atomic mass and the proton number, including the element on the periodic table. So now that we have understood what a periodic table is and how you can identify elements on the periodic table, next we are going to look at what are known as periods and groups. So what are periods on the periodic table? So that's the next thing we need to understand. So the period is basically just the horizontal. So the period is just the horizontal law of elements. On the periodic table. So what do we mean the period are the horizontal rows of elements on the periodic table? So we know that the periodic table is like this. So that this is just the rough sketch. Yeah. So I'll be using this to refer to it as our periodic table. Yeah. So when we talk about periods. So the period by horizontal, I mean these are the lines which goes like this. So this is known as horizontal. So this is period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4, just like that. So me, I don't have a periodic table on me, but you can use your periodic table to identify the periods, just like this. Yeah, and you have to remember that the first period has only 2 elements. So the first period, or period 1, has only hydrogen and helium. So that period on top, which only contains 2 elements, helium and what? Hydrogen. That is known as our first period. Yeah. Then now you need to understand the properties of the periodic table concerning the what? The periods. So how do elements on the periodic table react when they are moving from what? Right? I mean when they are moving from left to right. What are the properties, or how can we distinguish these metals? So we are talking about the properties now of elements from left to right. So you need to pay attention on properties, because this is the most important part and the part which they like bringing. So what are the properties? So the first properties you need to know is the elements changes from metals to non-metals as you are moving from left to right. So property number 1 is that if they change, the element changes from metals to non-metal. So whenever you are moving from this going this side, you start to notice that these are metals, but here they will start changing until you reach somewhere here where now you can have both elements which can act as metals and non-metals. Then you go into non-metals. So that's how metals change. So the change in metals basically follows the period. I mean basically follows from left to right. Then the second property is that electronegativity increases. So most of you are asking, what is electronegativity? So we say that electronegativity increases. Negative increases. So what do we mean when we say electronegativity? So electronegativity, this is just the ability of an atom to attract a pair of electrons in a covalent bond. So electronegativity is the ability to attract another atom in a covalent bond. So most of you have watched my chemical bonding questions. You know that when we talk about covalent bond, we are talking about a bond which forms between non-metals. So this makes sense because I told you that as you are moving to the right, metals start changing to non-metals. Therefore, it would be common sense to know that the electronegativity will increase, because from this side the metals are becoming non-metals, and we said that covalent bond is a bond which is formed between what? Non-metals. So as we are moving this side to the right, meaning it should do increase, because we have a lot of non-metals. Yeah, so the next one is atoms increases by 1. So what do we mean? The atomic number increases by 1. So as you are moving from left to right on the periodic table, you will notice that the atomic number, or the number on top of the element, will be increasing by 1. Yeah, you need to understand that the next properties you need to understand is that the number the number of shells remains the same as you are moving from right to left. Yeah, so number 3 is the number of shells. So shells remains the same, but valence electrons increases. So these properties I'm giving you, they are very, very important. This is where mostly examiners ask you questions. Yeah. They won't ask you about the definition, but they'll ask you about the properties of the periodic table. What are the properties of element found in group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, up to group 8. So you need to pay particular attention to the property part. So yeah, as we have talked about. So these are the 3 properties which you need to understand on the period. So after understanding the period, you are going to move on to the groups. What are groups now on the periodic table? So the groups, these are vertical column of elements. So these are vertical columns of elements. Yeah, so remember in the previous we understood that these which are horizontal laws, they are known as the periods. So now here we are saying that the vertical lines are known as what? Columns. So meaning moving from up, going down, again up, going down, up, going down. These are known as the groups. So I need to understand this. This is the simplest way I can teach you on the periodic table. Yeah. So remember, when you are looking at groups, they are going from up to down. Then when you are talking about periods, it is what? Horizontal. Yeah. So what are we saying? Since we are saying that groups are vertical columns of elements. Yeah. So basically, what determines now the group in which an element belongs is what is known as valence electrons, or electrons in its outermost shell. So a group is determined by the electrons in the outermost shell. So whatever electrons you have in the last shell, that is the group of an element. If we have 1, the element is in group 1. If you have 2, the element is in group 2. If we have 3, the element is in group 3. Yeah. Now you need to understand about special names. So special names are given to the main groups which we are going to discuss in this video. So this is my part 1. Be sure to watch my part 2, part 3, and my final part where I talk about each group separately. So each video will talk about each group separately. So this video was just an introduction to the periodic table. Yeah. So what are the names given to the groups? So we have group 1, group 2, group 7, and group O, or group 8. So group 1 elements are known as the alkali metals. Why are known as alkali metals? Because they react with water to form an alkaline solution or an hydroxide, in short. Then when you talk about group 2 elements, these group 2 elements are known as alkaline. You have to know the difference. Group 1 are alkali, group 2 alkaline earth metals. So another way we can say that alkaline metals, these are alkaline metals because they are rare to find, whilst alkaline earth metals, you can even understand in the name that these are earth metals, meaning they are found on earth. Then you have group 7. So group 7 elements are known as halogens. So when you look at group 7 elements, you see that these are halogens, and most halogens, they are diatomic. What do you mean when you say diatomic? Meaning they don't exist as one element, but they exist as a molecule. Meaning when you are writing a chemical symbol, you have to put what? A 2. Then our final group of element is known as the inert gases, or some of you may call them noble gases. They also have another name which is known as rare gases. So meaning in your exam, expect one of these 3 words. So these 3 words, they mean the same thing, noble gases. And elements in this group, they basically do not react. Yeah. So elements in group 8, they are stable elements. That's why they are known as the noble gases. Group 1 elements, alkaline metals. Group 2 elements, they are known as alkaline earth metals. Then group 7, halogens. Then group O is known as what? Inert noble gases or rare gases. Yeah. Okay, so after knowing the names of each group, we are going to look at now the properties. So since we looked at, so now the properties we have looked are 2. We have looked the properties of elements as we are moving from left to right. Then here we are going to look at the properties as we are moving from top to down. Yeah, so again, this is just a drawing of the periodic table. Yeah, so we have group 1, group 2, group 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah. So here the properties we are talking about is moving from top to down in each group. So whatever I'll be talking about, these properties, they'll be applying to each group as you move up, going down. These are the general properties. So the first property is metallic increases. Metallic nature increases. What do you mean when you say the metallic nature increases? So the metallic nature, this is the ability of an element being a metal. So as you are moving down the group, the metals keep on what? Becoming hard. We know that the metal which is on top is soft. The more you are going down, that softness starts to become the hardness. Yeah. So that's what it means when we say the metallic increases. So here they can ask you a question in the exam to say that which of the following element is what? The most metallic element. So you have to look at the element which is placed here. So the element placed at the bottom is the most metallic metal. Yeah. Then the second thing you need to understand is also as you are moving from up going down, the atomic number increases. So the atomic number increases. Yeah. Then you have to understand that whenever you see the elements in group 1, meaning they have what? The same chemical properties. So elements with the same chemical properties, they are placed in the same group. You need to understand that. So chemicals, so elements with similar chemical properties are placed in the same group. Yeah. Then here comes a question. Which group do you think hydrogen belong to? So hydrogen basically belongs to two groups or in the middle of two groups. So hydrogen can either be group 1 or group 7. Why? Because hydrogen in some cases it can lose. Hydrogen in some cases it can what? Share an electron, which makes it a non-metal, and it can also what? Lose a non-metal, which makes it lose an electron, which makes it what? A metal. Yeah. So this point you need to understand is that hydrogen is between group 1 and 7. because it has characteristics of group 1 and 7 elements, meaning it can either lose an electron or it can share an electron. Yeah. So this is where my part 1 video ends. So in the next video, part 2, we are going to start looking at group 1 elements, their properties, their chemical properties. Those two things are the only things which you need to understand on group 1 elements and some uses. Yeah.